December 11th, 2024, 6 o'clock. All raised for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have Mark Lohr on Zoom phone. He got a knee replacement done yesterday. He's still in the hospital, so he's here on Zoom. Okay, roll call. Mr. Boxton. Mr. Cole here. Mr. Lohr. Here. Okay. Public comment, agenda items. Mike Ornott.
Mike Ornott, 65 Alban Road. We're starting a new year here, and I think the township residents deserve a running total of our money. How much we're starting our year with, how much the bills are, and the balance of the money that we have left over every month. So we know when we're going over budget, hey, we got to put a stop to it. Not have like last year. Thank you.
Bill Pollock.
Good evening. I'm Bill Pollock, Pollock Road. That was a copy of the budget for last year and the final financials.
It's just a budget law. Profit and loss statement and a list of all checks, receipts from January to November.
Okay, so this is not the summary of how much we spent in 2024.
Yes, it is.
Okay, then this is obviously something that, so this has the total expense.
Well, I don't know. It's there for your information. It's a list of all the checks, all the receipts, a profit and loss statement. It's like 17 pages there. You can take your time and go.
Well, no, you have the financial report lists the total income, total expenditures. This is just a listing of checks. Is there a
It's a list of checks and receipts and a profit and loss statement.
And the total expenditure through November 24, this is the end of November?
Up to the end of November.
And so what are the total expenses?
I don't know, Bill. You have to go through them now.
Well, again, this is we're here to discuss and supposedly vote on the proposed budget for 2025. We can't do that unless we know the balance, which is a key element. The balance in the accounts.
The balances are there, and the board is going to vote on the budget.
The state code requires that it be accurate in order to vote on it. A key part of that is the balance at the end of the year. Is there a balance on this? Is there expenses and income for the whole year, and is there a reserve account balance total for the entire organization?
Yes. Do you have any other comments?
No. This is, well, again, this is a budget meeting. We're not being held to 2 minutes because we have real questions to ask. And one of the questions that we're asking is, what were the total expenditures for 2024? Because you can't do a budget until you know how much you start with at the beginning of the year, which is your year-end balance. Yes, I have a lot more to say. There's no balance in this.
The front page is the balance of the fund.
This doesn't have the date in November that the expenses are for.
November 30th.
And the total expenses are?
We go to the profit and loss statement.
No, again, this is, you presented a budget for 2025, and that budget says that you're going to have a beginning balance for the total reserves of $5,027. $5,027,027 is the reserve balance. That's the projected reserve balance at the end of 2025, and the budget says that the beginning balance is $5,060,000. Is that the correct number?
Well, Julie has listed here 5,120,000, so that's.
Again, this does not have the total expenses.
They're all listed there, Bill. You want to go through them, add them up?
We get a chance to review this information. You can't give us 20 pages. This is not through the end of the year.
It's not the end of the year yet either.
Your budget for 2025 is based on having $5,060,000 in the account at the beginning of the year. If we go through all of the numbers, and that's a key number because you're proposing to spend $5.4 million in 2025. That's virtually all the money that we have. That takes the reserves down. If we started with a beginning balance of $5,060,000, that takes the reserve balance down from over $5 million down to $1,539,000.
That's not true. They allocated money to the capital reserve.
The budget is to spend $1,902,000. The reserve amounts are reserved. You reserved $500,000 for budget overruns. You've reserved $2.7 million for a water project. These projects aren't even defined. Nobody knows what they are. It's not proper.
Money for the water project is a capital reserve fund. And if they do the project next year, it will be engineered, designed, advertised, and bid.
This is not appropriate to put a project in the budget that's not defined.
Yes, it is, Bill. A budget is an estimate of expenses and receipts.
The American Rescue Park Plan for $288,000. That's not defined either. I mean, we spent last year, the 2024 budget was $1,149,000. This year's budget is $5.4 million. We would take our reserves down to virtually nothing, and I've got significant questions on revenue and expenses in the proposed budget. But the first thing is we don't even have an accurate number for the beginning balance in the reserves. Your budget has $5,060,000. The budget for 2024 has a reserve at the end of the year of $5.3 million. But the budget for 2024 had a total expense, including capital, of $1,149,000. In 2023, we spent $2.4 million, and we gave significant raises to people during 2024, and we've had no reports of any financials in 2024, and we now have a page that lists through November that was just given to us, and there's no report showing what it is for the end of the year. So if you look at last year's expenditures, what was the total expenditure projected to be for 2024?
I don't have that paper in front of me.
Well, no, you don't need to pay. You need to, Joe, you're the head supervisor. How much did we
I am
spend?
not the head supervisor. I'm just the supervisor.
Who is the head
We
supervisor?
don't have one right now.
You don't have
No,
one?
we don't. No. Jim Boxton stepped down. Okay?
He stepped down?
Yes, he stepped down at a meeting here. We all were here at the meeting.
Well, no, he's still a supervisor,
He's
right?
still a supervisor, and so am I.
Okay, well, who is the head? Someone has to run the organization.
Mark is in charge now of the building and stuff like that.
Okay, well, Mark's on the phone. Mark, how much have we spent? What's the projection for the total expenditures for 2024? The budget is $1,149,250. How much have we spent? You can't do a budget without knowing how much you've spent for the prior year because that establishes the balance at the beginning of the year.
Jim, can you answer?
I'm not going to wade through 20 pages that's come out of a QuickBooks program and figured out myself. I'm not the treasurer.
Jim, can you answer on this?
I'm asking.
No, what is the number? We
You're
spent.
going around in circles, Bill. The main answer's there. The budget's
Nobody going around in circles.
Come on, you asked something. You should be able to define.
You can't run.
Come on, guys. Let's just
No,
calm
wait,
down.
no, wait. You
Bill,
have to be.
please calm down. Okay? Please. You don't need to yell here. Please.
Someone has to be able to tell us how much money you've spent this year. The budget is $1,149,250.
Our total expenses this year was 1.25802.74. Our total income is 1,785.
I'm asking for total expenses, including all capital.
The total expenses that was just handed to me
No,
on the paper is 1.252820. 1.2 million dollars. A little over 1.2 million.
That's through the end of the year.
That is to November 30th.
You can't do a budget without knowing what the starting balance is in the reserve account. We are here to discuss the 2025 budget. In order to discuss the 2025 budget, particularly when you're spending virtually all of our reserves, and since we put $3.2 million in a bond fund, you don't even know that we have $3.2 million available from that because the value of an uninsured bond fund is based on the interest rate and what the bonds are valued at. So it's extremely important that we know exactly what our starting balance is for the budget because we're virtually spending this budget down to nothing. We're spending, this proposed budget has $5.4 million. The Pennsylvania...
Bill, can you go on with what you need to say? Because we have other people.
The Pennsylvania Second Class Township Code for Annual Budget, 1933, Act 69, says a township shall not prepare and advertise notice of a proposed budget when it is knowingly inaccurate. You do not know the starting balance for the 2025 budget because you cannot tell us what the total expenditures are and what the starting balance is. The $5,060,000 number is incorrect. I'll go through the rest of my comments, Joe. The interest amount of $150,000 in the proposed 2025 budget is totally inaccurate because we moved $3.2 million into a bond fund that's uninsured. And with this proposed budget, we're virtually going to draw out all of our reserves. So we're not going to get interest on those reserves through the year because you're proposing to spend most of them during the year. In addition, bonds are valued based on the interest rate and the fees that you have to pay in redeeming them. When you go to redeem a bond, you could get 20% less for that bond because the interest rate went up and the current market value is inverse to the interest rate. So we don't even know that we could withdraw $3.2 million and we aren't going to be able to get $150,000 in interest because we're not going to have all this money in the bond fund because we have to withdraw it because we're proposing to spend $5.4 million. The next item I have is we have budgeted $450,000 for Act 13 grant. We got $388,000 in Act 13 money in 2024. In 2025, the total Act 13 income went down quite a bit, 10 to 15%. So our total income from the Act 13 is going to be less than $388,000, probably closer to $300,000. What do we have? $450,000. We could be $150,000 budgeted ahead of what we're really going to receive, which goes into our final reserves, which are quite low. If we lose money on the bond fund and we are low on $150,000 on the Act 13, again, our reserves are going to be quite a bit lower, and we're projecting to take them down to $1.5 million. So we're projecting to take our reserves down from over $5 million to $1.5 million with this budget, which
The budget that I see here is 1.9, okay?
no, the budget is taking the reserves down to $1,538,000, and that's
Well,
saying
we're going to start with 5 million. Then by the time you add everything up over here, you're at 6.9 million. Then you subtract the 1 million what the budget is, and that leaves you right around 5 million.
It's your budget. It says final reserve total $1,539,000. It also
But
says
you got to add these all up though.
that the $500,000 reserve in the operating reserve says they can overspend the budget by $500,000, and that'll be fine. They don't have to come back to us for anything because they already reserved the $500,000 overage for the budget. The $2.7 million for the undefined water project, we've requested in writing 2 separate times that the details of any water projects be made available to the residents, and that both members of the planning and zoning be involved in any meetings. There have not been any public meetings. We have not been allowed to come to anything. There's no records of any
As
meetings.
a supervisor, I have not seen nothing yet myself.
Then it shouldn't be budgeted.
This is in case it does happen, I guess.
This-
I mean that's what we're thinking of.
This is the biggest capital project the township has ever undertaken. This is not something you do in the back room. This is something we have to have specific meetings, get people involved, and come up with good plans. I presume.
Were you involved in the other ones that came through this township? Were you involved in it?
I've been involved in
In the
every.
planning commission, were you involved in the?
I'm not in the water.
Okay.
I specifically have requested for 6 months in writing that both planning and zoning be involved in these discussions in the meetings. This hasn't even been included in the minutes, which is a state requirement as well. Those projects, the $288,000 for a park project, we haven't been involved in that either. That's not something you can budget. You have to have meetings. You have to have public input. None of these, the $500,000 operating reserve, that's just a slush fund for running over the budget.
The 288 for the park, I believe, Mark, and those were COVID money. It needed tab. It needed tab.
It's spending our money.
It needed tab. It was the COVID money that was received.
This should not, I mean, if the bond interest rate and the fees on the bonds significantly reduce the value of the bonds, and we have no insurance on this, and you call in July and say, I need $1.5 million, and they say, well, I'm sorry, but the bonds are only worth $1.2 million. With the level that you're taking the reserves down in this budget, I mean, we could be totally out. We could be totally wipe out our reserves. Our income projections are not adequate, and these projects aren't properly defined. So we don't have an accurately defined budget that we can even vote on, which we have a bridge repair project for $170,000. Exactly what is this?
The bridge on Spud Lane, Spud Road.
I mean, this private lane.
It's not a private lane.
Well, we took over it
It's not a private
5 years ago. This is the one where you were trying to get a $200,000 grant
We
also.
did get it.
You can get it?
We are. It's in a process.
Where is it? Where is it on the budget? I don't see any grants on the budget. I don't see any water grants. Are there any water grants in the budget?
No.
Have we gotten any water grants in 5 years since Jim Boxhouse became head supervisor? I haven't
Was
seen
there any
one.
prior to this?
From 2020, have we gotten any grants for water in Somerset Township?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that's what water grants are for. The water company provides payments for each customer you bring on. That's not in here either. Again, this budget is not accurate, and it can't be voted on, again, by the state regulations. These we need to have, other townships have reviews where they have major projects, they have a specific meeting, they put a proposal in front of the residents, they let you ask questions.
It was online, it was available here, and nobody called this office.
There's no budget for the water project.
This is the public meeting. Nobody answers the phone, I even call the office.
You can call me anytime you want. I'll answer.
So we have some.
Bill, we need to move on.
No, wait a minute. This is
Bill, please, seriously. Let's try to run a meeting. Come on, really.
These are legitimate. This is like $5,500 per family we're proposing to spend. Your real estate taxes for Somerset Township, there's about 1,000 families, just over 1,000 families in Somerset. We collected last year $178,000 in real estate taxes. That's less than $200 per family. The biggest part of your real estate taxes go to the school. But the portion that comes to the township that's part of this budget is about $200 per family. The occupancy tax is about a little over $400 per family. This budget has us spending over $5,000 per family, essentially wiping out the Act 13, which is the shale gas impact money. Somerset Township has received about $5 million since 2011 on impact fees from the shale gas, which is a good thing. And we built up the reserves that were over $5 million. To spend all these reserves in 1 year on projects that aren't defined leaves us with a real problem, because the Act 13 shale impact money is drastically going down. It was $629,000 for 2023. That was more money than we collected for both the occupancy tax and the real estate taxes. This year it's went down to $388,000, and next year for this 2025 budget, it's going to be closer to $300,000 because it completely goes away. In 4 years, it goes down 75% in year 4. In year 11, it goes down about 90%, and in year 16, it totally goes away. And the majority of the wells that were drilled, and there's over 100 in Somerset Township, were drilled many years ago. So we're now in a state of rapid decline. And all this money that came in, which was actually more than our real estate and occupancy taxes, is going away. And that's why we have to be extremely diligent in what we're doing, because right now spending all of our reserves at a time that we have all these expenses coming in and we've increased our spending of the township is going to come back at us in tax increases, which with our real estate taxes only bringing in $200,000, if we have to make up $1 million, that's 5 times our township portion of real estate taxes to make this up, which is why we're so intent on understanding the budget, where the money is going. We have to get this under control. And spending all this money, having our reserves in a bond fund that is at the mercy of the market interest rates, and virtually all of our reserves are in that, is extremely risky. And then spending it down, there are huge holes in this budget that's going to leave us with very little or no reserves by the end of next year. And we have to correct that before it can be voted on, because, as I said, the state statutes require that the budget be accurate in order to be acted upon.
Can you explain this any better about the reserves?
The capital reserves are making 4.22%. Can you hear me?
The capital reserve.
It's a bond fund, Joe. Bond funds, you have a face value of a bond. When the interest rates go up.
Can you let Mark speak, please, Bill?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mark.
That 4.22% is guaranteed.
This is a municipal fund. It's not FDIC insured. The value of the bond goes down as the interest rate goes up. You get a fixed interest rate on the principal. And when you have to redeem virtually all of these bonds, which you're going to have to do with this budget in 2025, you're at the mercy of the market. Whatever the market values that bond at the day you have to sell it, that's what you're going to get. There's nobody standing behind guaranteeing the value of the bond, which is the problem, because with this budget, you've got to redeem the majority of the bonds in the Act 13 fund.
Can you
And-
explain any more of that, Mark, that we're not going to touch the reserves?
We're not gonna cut the reserves at all. It just depends on what kind of water project we decide on. We're trying to get a water fill station in the township somewhere because people need water. So we're trying to come up with the best possible way. And by no means are we gonna spend $5 million.
This is your budget. I didn't invent these numbers. These are your numbers, Mark. Your numbers have the reserve taken down to 1.539. That's assuming that you're going to get $450,000 in Act 13, and I will guarantee you're not going to get $450,000 in Act 13 money because you didn't get that much this year and it's going down next year.
I understand, Bill, that it's not a guarantee on that. It's a guess of what we're getting.
And the $150,000 in interest, 4% of $3 million is $120,000. But when you're withdrawing money during the year, you don't get interest for the whole year. This has full interest on full reserves as of the
Can you
beginning of
let
the
Mark
year.
speak, please? Go ahead, Mark.
We're not gonna withdraw any money.
You're only collecting $1.9 million. You're spending $1.9 million on the operating expenses, not including the capital projects. So yes, you're withdrawing money.
No, we will not be withdrawing money from that account.
You can't make the numbers work.
We absolutely can't do it.
And we don't even know what the expenses and capital are for the entire year of 2024, which establishes the reserve at the beginning of 2025, which is the key number in making the budget valid. So this is the code. We're familiar with the code. I'm familiar with financials. I've run large organizations. I'm president of a homeowners association. I've done it for 40 years. I've run major companies. The financials are the financials. This is the problems that we have, that we don't have a valid budget, and according to the codes, we cannot vote on a budget that's not a valid budget.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Roger Rainey.
I had a couple of prepared things, but I'm not sure where to start. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Their numbers don't add up, and if we do take their numbers, the proposed increase in spending next year is 470% over this year. And if we take their numbers, the reserve now is 5.3 million. The reserve at the end of next year will be 1.5. They're going to spend $4 million out of the reserve. Their numbers. Their numbers don't add up and they don't make sense. That's their numbers. If they exceed next year's budget by the same percentage and amount they exceeded last year's budget, 23, we will be down to zero balance by the end of 2025. Is that unbelievable? We elect 3 people to come to meetings. The last meeting, this gentleman here did all the talking. How can we vote on a $5 million budget when we elect 3 people who supposedly make the budget, and this is the only gentleman that talks? And he gives you a 20-page piece of paper at the beginning of the meeting and says, add it up. How can you run a township like that? A township shall not prepare and advertise notice of a proposed budget when it is knowingly inaccurate. They don't know how much you're going to spend between now and the end of the year. It is knowingly inaccurate.
Thank you, Roger. Gary Feber?
Gary Fiber, 13 Pollock Road. Let me ask you something. If this was your business, would you run it this way? You don't have exact numbers. You just don't, and you don't tell us to add it up. This is the sloppiest accounting system I've seen in 47 years in the business world. I asked you last meeting we petitioned for a forensic audit. Why? Anybody can make up an audit. Anybody can put stuff on paper. Forensic means you take a look at it. Really, you've got a month and what? 2 weeks left? And you don't know what you've spent since the middle of November. How in the world?
It's right here. It's on that
The
page.
top one, Linz?
Okay, you have a water project budgeted $2.7 million. Where are the bids on it? Where's the proposals? Where are the specifics?
We haven't. I have not seen anything.
Well, you're a supervisor.
I understand that, but it's not
Okay.
been present.
Is it, do you have one in writing that we can see that you actually got this done? Is it on record in this township someplace?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so if
I'm
I
being
ask,
honest.
okay, so if I ask you to loan somebody money or to give somebody money for a project, and I said we need $200,000, what are you going to use it on? I don't know. We're probably going to use it on this. The point is, none of this makes sense. Therefore, what have you decided, if anything, on a forensic audit? And why would you do a forensic audit? To prove that what you're saying is true and you're violating state code by trying to vote on a budget that is not complete. Therefore, it's inaccurate. You're in violation of the state code. Tell me if that's legal, Mr. Lake.
Budget to advertise is the.
I did not ask you that. I've been with attorneys a long time. I said, based on that code, you're voting on a budget that we do not know what's happening at the end of this year.
That's not unusual. It's an estimate of expenses and receipts.
What, your budget? This budget? Where does the state code say that?
The state code says a budget is to be an estimate of receipts and expenditures for the following year. They plan on doing a project of
Yeah, I can hear you.
water line. They may not do the water line. If they do the water line, it has to be designed by the engineer. It has to be bid.
But shouldn't, sorry, go ahead. My
And it has to be bid and advertised. Award a bid. It may be $2 million, it may be $1 million. Maybe it's $5 million and they won't do it.
Well, why is it in there for $2.7 million?
You need to allocate the
There,
funds.
Linz?
Yeah, we're here, Mark.
You have to allocate the funds.
Why is it in there for $2.7 million then?
I think Mark has some estimates somewhere.
What, we do it online? I mean, this
It's
doesn't,
an estimate. It's an estimate.
Who bid the work?
Nobody bid
It's
nothing.
not bid yet. It isn't.
Well, he just said
It will
you
be
get a bid, and then that's how you get it, correct?
If they,
Did you not say
they're
that?
they're
you get somebody
allocating
to
money
bid it?
to do a water project.
Did you just not say that somebody to bid it, and then,
If they proceed with it, the engineer will have to design.
so you just estimate how much?
why don't you make it $5 million?
Because they don't know what's gonna cost.
That's what I'm saying.
It's an estimate.
So, how is it in there? It may be more than that.
It may be less.
So you just pull a number
You
out of
just-
thin air.
you
I mean,
just-
you're just, let's say, put it in a hat and pull it out. see what the-
No, Mark came up with
More or
this.
less.
I don't know who Mark talked to.
I know, but there shouldn't have been writing and
Who
doing
does
this.
somebody, I mean, it's gotta be talked
It's got to be discussed. It's got to be presented.
It's not spent, it's an estimate.
about. I understand that.
But it's
but
on
who
the
got-
budget. On the budget.
It isn't a budget.
Once it's in the budget, then you have the right to spend it. That's what we're complaining. You have to have a detail. You can't put 2.7 million and go do what you want. You have to have people involved. These can't be backroom capital projects.
There's no backroom capital.
None of us have been involved. No.
Joe said he didn't know, we don't know anything.
Right. Your
Here's
supervisors
the
don't
supervisor.
even know.
I don't, Dave.
I understand, I believe
I
you.
just want my question
I
answered.
believe you.
Yeah, we're not calling you.
There was no figures brought in front of me at all.
So,
And I'm gonna say this to you, you're a supervisor, you ought to tell another two jokers that, hey, you know, you gotta get involved in it. They can't, you can, actually, by law, they can't go through this one. You have to get involved in everything.
You need to stand up for that.
So they put you out of the loop, man. You have to realize that.
No one put me out of the loop yet.
Well, out of the loop means you don't have the data, and they're wanting to propose 2.7 million. Wouldn't, if Mark did this, Mark, and if you can hear me, where did you get the data? And why isn't it written up in a bid situation, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 water projects done, and you can go, yeah, it's an average of this. That makes sense. But that doesn't exist. You wouldn't run your law practice like this. You wouldn't run your own businesses like this. Anyway, all I want is an answer to my other question. What did you decide to do about handling that petition for a forensic audit?
Mr. Lickers?
Supervisors advertised after last meeting to have an audit performed, appoint an accountant to do an outside audit at the meeting of January 6th.
Okay.
It's under section B of 917. You asked for an audit under section A. That section A does not say forensic audit. It says
We asked for forensic audit. It's on there.
you presented a petition under section 517A. You said it required for some forensic audit. It says an audit. Supervisors have advertised, and they will appoint an outside auditor on January 6th to do that. And the board will discuss next meeting about whether they want to incur the expense.
So why didn't you come back and tell us that, quote, I gave you a form that was inaccurate? Why
don't our elected auditors look at it? I don't understand why we're paying this money for outside firms when we elect auditors. And I think 90% of the residents think that the auditors are watching the books, when in fact it's an outside firm that's looking at the books. Whereas, like when Nellie Chester was in there, she was scrutinizing every single thing that was spent. They care because they live in the township. These outside audit companies, as long as line A, line B, line C add up to line D, they're fine with the audit.
Right.
But our elected auditors are going to look at it. Well, wait a minute. Maybe we're spending a little bit too much on this. Why do our auditors not audit our books?
I think they have to be a registered CPA too.
Our auditors?
No,
No, they don't.
To do the audit.
Not to read.
No, they don't. Do the BCD.
I mean, this was what was done when I came here.
It's been done.
This is what was done when I came here.
Right.
So-
right.
Okay?
Right. Oh, I understand that, but I still don't understand. That's more money that we're spending than when we elect auditors. Can you answer that, sir?
I don't know any township where the elected auditors actually do the audit. Always outside audit.
Which township?
Well,
Emerald Township.
Township.
Well, it's a fact. Why do you always demean him when he makes a comment? He knows more about running a business than everybody put together in this room. And I can bring another attorney in here, or 2 or 3 more attorneys, and we can have this argument with you all day long. Yeah, and the problem is, all these people pay taxes. All these people live here. And you're proposing budgets based on, well, if we do it, we'll do it. And if we don't do it, we won't do it. It might not cost us again. Okay, we can give you a different position or petition if you want it. The point is, you don't know, and you're going to vote on this budget for next year, and the estimate, based on what? Again, if it was your money, would you do it? That's all I have to say.
Is there anybody else for the agenda items? Okay, minutes of November 13th, 2024 meeting. I need to make a motion to approve them.
Make a motion.
Mark made a motion. If not, I'll second. All in favor? Yes. Number 2, approval of checks, warrants, transfers as listed, and any other necessary transfer.
Make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Yes. Old business, resolution 8, 20 24, adopt the final 2025 budget. I need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. New business.
Excuse me, Joe.
I'll make a motion. Yes.
Yeah. Call for a vote.
Okay. All in favor? Yes. Number 4, new business. Authorized legal ad for 2025 reorganization meetings, January 6th and 7th. I need to make a motion. I'll second it. All in favor? Yes. Number 5, reports, supervisors. Mark, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
We went out and treated our roads. The last snow incident we had, there was some ice and stuff, and hopefully we did an okay job for you residents around. We've been taking a couple of trees down that are pretty hazardous on some of the roads. We have one up on Hod Summit. It's in the power lines. West Bend's been notified last Thursday, and it's still on the power lines. Secretary?
General fund, $1,000,250. Liquid fuels, $376,256. Local share account, $150,829. Escrow rice, $207,779.
Excuse me, what was the Act 13 balance?
It's in two. There's one, the capital reserve and an operating reserve. The Act 13 fund, the one that's a reserve is 2.7. The Act 13 fund operating for our projects is $462,000.
Great. That's like 3.162 million. I thought we put 3.2 million in that several months ago. Is that correct? What was the amount transferred from the bank CD to the municipal organization that manages the bond fund?
Right. You can call me tomorrow and I can give it to you.
Oh, no, I mean,
You can go in your office.
You can go in your office. No, you don't want you guys ask questions.
Come on, we're running a meeting here.
You want to ask questions, ask questions.
No, they had to allocate that money for the park out of it. That's what's in one fund, but it's allocated to two different things. If you add them up, it'll be the amount you're talking
no, it's less than 3.2 million, Jim. I mean, we put 3.2 million, supposedly we put 3.2 million in months ago and we're drawing 4% interest on it. It should be quite a bit more.
Anything? Public comment, non-agenda items. Joan Pollock.
Hey, Joe, I didn't sign up for that.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
You're good.
Joan Pollock, Pollock Road. You answered my question. I was going to ask who was in charge of the office staff, and you said Mark is.
Mark's Director of Public Works.
So he's in charge of whatever happens in the office.
He oversees it.
He oversees it. I suggest, Mark, that you do a better job in overseeing him. And Joe, if things aren't being brought in front of you, I suggest you make them be in front of you.
I do. I do.
But you're
sometimes.
telling us no, you
I
can't.
do.
And they still won't show it to you?
Show me what?
Well, you're saying you don't know anything about the figures. You don't know anything
There's
about the
no
water.
figures on no water
Okay.
lines at all.
You're saying you haven't seen
There
anything
isn't. I
about the
haven't.
water.
I
You
have
haven't seen
not.
anything about the water.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Why haven't you?
Because there's nothing that was brought
how
to
did they,
Mark.
But how did they come up with the money, the figure?
Mark, how did you come up with the number?
There were just some proposed been finalized or went any further. There's several projects. There's one down on 519 with Pennsylvania American Water. There was one that we were thinking about running to the township building from Hickson Road.
So in other words, you just grabbed a number out of your hat, like you said.
We're trying to get a water fill station for the people who need water in the township. We're trying to do it the best.
And how do you justify the people that need water? How do you justify those people? How do you come up with the vicinity that you want to put this in versus other people?
Well, our thing for the water fill station was the first one was on Lovett Lane, and it was probably the best place in the township we could do it. But the prices, some of the stuff skyrocketed, and then Charleroi Water didn't want to work with us, so we're trying to, work with different water companies now.
You don't sound like you really know what you're talking about, which doesn't surprise me. But you really need, Joe, you really need to step up.
Thank you, Joe. Bill Pollock.
Obviously, the budget is really important to us. It impacts everybody, and with over $5,000 per family being proposed to be spent here, and not even knowing how much we've spent or projected to spend through the end of the year. You need to look at North Strabane, South Strabane. They have 20 pages. They take this year's budget. They take this year's projected actual. They take next year's budget. In about 200 account nature comparisons, they look at 2023, 2022, all on one page. Sitting here not even knowing how much we've spent, not providing
I told you, Bill, $1.25
I know,
million.
Joe, that's not the number. The number is what's being spent through the end of the year. You can't run a QuickBooks sheet.
This is a non-agenda talk now, too, Bill. So this, what you're talking about.
That's it. And the most important thing we did tonight here was you voted we have one supervisor missing and one on the phone. This is the most important meeting we have during the year when you decide what you're going to do with $5.4 million without sufficient detail, and we only have one supervisor that actually shows up at the meeting. That's not acceptable. This is the most important meeting we have all year. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Greg Sprity.
Greg Sprity, 90 Chippewa Road. Let me preface my comments by stating that, in line with our Christian values, not anyone on this side of the room has any ill will toward anyone on this side of the room. As public servants, we have to divorce our public office from our personal persona. That being said, my comments are not intended to be, nor should they be taken as personal attacks. I'm not here today to beg anyone to reappoint me to another term on the zoning hearing board, even though the Board of Supervisors will be hard pressed to find anyone with my experience. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that I lasted this long. Because when I saw in early 2001, and for the following 3.5 years, but this administration seemed to be taking a page out of the Democrat playbook by using your public office to persecute and harass your political opponents. But instead of resigning, I felt I had a need to stay on and be a voice for those who were being targeted, because I felt it was the right thing to do, and I have no regrets. According to the General Code, Section 180-41B, the member of the zoning hearing board shall consist of 3 residents of the township. Indeed, this is an invalid premise because personal knowledge of the township, the people, and their neighborhoods allows them to make informed decisions that do not harm any of the residents. Further, Section F states that the zoning hearing board may employ or contract for secretaries, clerks, legal counsel, consultants, and other technical and clerical services. Yet, in early 2003, the Board of Supervisors hired a zoning and planning coordinator who's not a resident of the township. With lack of knowledge of the township and its neighborhoods has caused hardships for its residents, as evidenced in the latest zoning hearing board request for a variance, which through common sense should have never come before the board, and from my personal perspective, was an embarrassment to the township. In September this year, I received a registered letter from the township solicitor, Mr. Liker, stating that supervisors at the October 9th meeting will consider a motion to remove me from the zoning hearing board pursuant to Section 905 of the PA MDC. When I requested a hearing concerning this matter, it was dropped actually the next day. As I'd made no decisions as a public official for more than 10 months and felt there was no just cause to remove it. In conclusion, we're all adults here. We need to put our personal feelings aside and do what's best for the township and its residents. Thank you.
Roger Rainey. Gary Fiber.
Whatever you want to call it. I just have one question. So, he was removed, and I didn't know that, based on, what was it? They asked him.
He was not removed. Right.
What?
You were removed from.
The letter you got said what?
They said it was for malfeasance or just cause. And I had malfeasance is unlawful act by a public official when I haven't made an act as a public official for more than 10 months.
So they didn't.
And I just view it as another retribution against this.
There's no action taken on that, right?
Yeah, because I requested a hearing and the people that wanted to accuse me probably didn't want to step up and they're false witness.
Well, regardless, no action was taken. He was not removed.
What did the letter say?
They were going to remove.
Okay,
They were going
got
to
it.
vote to remove.
Got it. Okay. So obstruction of law. Here's my question. Based on this 1933 Act 69 regarding the issues we talked about with the budget, here's my question to you, and you'll probably have to answer it because nobody's ever asked anybody else probably. I know you will. Never mind. Anyway, if a resident has a concern about an issue based on particularly this act, because there's a guess, an estimate, or whatever of the budget, you voted on a budget you just voted for 2025, and some state agency decides that was done in error based on their definition of what this act says, then what happens to that budget? If it was considered, voted on, and approved, I'll call it illegally, I'll call it unethically, I'll call it whatever you want. I'm just curious what would happen. Okay. So then you would have to redo it, and then you would redo it. If the agency
also says during the year, you can do supplemental appropriation. You can receive a grant or a loan or something.
Sure, I got that, but that's not what I'm asking you. And what Bill brought up and everybody else is talking about, this, we don't know. You're guessing at everything. Okay, I understand that. But we should be knowing what these actual numbers are by the end of the year before we approve the budget. Is that not what I understand that to be?
You can't have an accurate number on that until it's actually. That's why you estimate in the budget, and if they do the cross next year, has to be bid, and you'll have the exact number.
Okay, so no matter if it was me or someone else in here, if we file a complaint with some state agency, and they come down on the side of, yeah, what the hell they did this for, they can order you to change this.
Well, I don't know what agency you're talking about.
Well, there's the State Ethics Commission, there's the Attorney General's office. You would know more about that than I do. I'm just curious. I just wanted an answer to that question.
Do a consent decree, they can issue an order to do it. They could say it's okay.
Yeah, right. But if they said no, it's not okay, this would all have to be revisited again.
Yep.
And
If
okay. Okay. And then the other question was tied into that. You really don't have to have meetings with the residents to talk about what projected things you're going to attempt to accomplish, what you're going to spend money. That all, has that ever been done in 2024?
No, and I've been here for 7 years and it's never been done.
I understand.
Even before I was a supervisor, I attended meetings and it's never been done.
I'm
And the
not-
meetings were at 2 o'clock so nobody could show up.
Yeah, and who the hell put them at 2 o'clock? That's
The prior administration.
Okay, well then why didn't they get? Okay.
We made it for 6 so you guys could come.
Okay, but we can't get our questions answered. So I'm just saying.
I try to answer them the best I can. The knowledge that I have, I can answer.
I got that, and I'm not saying you're not making honest attempts to do it. What bothers me is there's too many things that we've all talked about that you haven't been aware of, supposedly. But anyway, I appreciate your answer to that question.
Thank you. Bill Vasco.
Hi, Bill Vasco, 56 Lonick Road. This is towards the solicitor in regards to the initiative to raise the supervisors from 3 to 5. These new supervisors coming in, are they under obligation to refuse a job? In other words, can they make a job? So they can have the same job that Joe and Mark have. Can they gain the health benefits? Can they gain the health benefits?
They're an employee.
Yeah, so they got to be an employee and get health benefits. Okay. Could in any way could another entity require that a candidate not take any of this? There's no way that they could stop.
Election and state law.
This is for the question here, you people. Is there any declared candidate for these 2 additional positions here tonight? None of you people are going to run.
I'm saying that.
You said declared candidate, right?
Yeah.
Speak up, please.
Declared candidate. Are you a declared candidate?
No.
Are you a declared candidate?
Not yet.
Are you going to?
We have time.
That's my decision to make at due
Okay,
time.
all right. No. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I am. Maybe I will declare tonight. I just want to know that there was promised us. We were sold on the idea that these 2 extra supervisors were not going to cost us any money. Now, if you do, are you going to refuse payment? You're going to do it for free?
I could.
So you don't want to say no or yes.
I don't know if I'm going to run yet or not. My decision.
But if you did run.
I can't make that decision right now. I wouldn't go over what I was entitled to if I was to collect it.
Sort of like the budget.
Not
Ain't sure. You'll know. Ain't sure. I can't.
Supervisors
Yeah.
get $1,875 a year.
I think they should forego that. No, I'll tell you what. If I was going to get elected, I'd forego that too. I'm not going to cost the penny to this Somerset Township. No way. If I'm going to say that I'm not going to cost them any money, I'm not going to take the money for the meetings either. When I was on a school board, we didn't get paid for any of that. Why should a non-working member of this board get paid for what he has to do?
Well, then why is Jim getting paid?
I agree. I don't like the idea, but I'm telling you what, your candidates were never supposed to take a dime. I want to see that.
Wait. That's not true.
Oh, you sold its entire township on that idea.
We had 3 working
Yes, sir.
supervisors for 6 years. Working supervisor package with benefits
is around $120,000
Yes.
a year. But, excuse me, non-working supervisors get $1,875 a year. They get $150
I'll
a
wrap it
month.
up. Yeah, well, if I am elected, and if I do declare, I won't take a nickel, not one. All right? And also, last thing, the people who didn't vote for this, they are going to all vote for Joe. Guaranteed. You're not going to
I
vote
came
for
in late.
Okay, yeah. Kathy Kennedy.
Kathy Kennedy from 2 Kryling Lane. I want to let y'all know I'm here wearing my food bank hat first. And Monday, we served 186 families. We put out 14,187 pounds of food. It was quite impressive. I did a little fundraising to raise money to get everybody a ham. We took it locally to the 84 Packing Company, and Gary worked out a good price for me. And we did do fundraising. EQT got me $2,000. The Transparency Group, along with other donors, got $1,635. And the Country Christmas brought in $1,180. However, the hams did cost $5,510, so I am still short $685. But that's not the point. The people got the hams. They're going to have a Merry Christmas, and that's all that matters. But what I would like to say is, Paula from the Country Christmas. Now I'm going to wear the Rec Board hat. The Country Christmas was last Saturday, and it was cold. We had a little bit lower turnout than we expected. The Country Christmas only brought in $1,180, which last year we brought in $1,700. That's kind of why my budget kind of fell a little bit short. But we had Paula Slagle, who volunteered to bring her cotton candy machine, and her husband ran it, and they donated all the materials that was needed for the cotton candy towards the food pantry so that we could just have it for the kids. Country Christmas is all about the kids. It's not about the fundraising, in my eyes. I do the games. I like to have fun with the kids. The pantry doesn't even get recognized in the newsletter. That really broke my heart. You know, they put out this fancy newsletter and not one mention of the food pantry. The food pantry is really a bright spot in this township. There's so much tension going on. There's so much hate going on. And it's just tearing everybody apart. It's tearing friends apart. It's just, things are happening. A man's gates are left open for the cattle to get out. Yeah, it'll hurt his livelihood, but wouldn't it hurt one of us if we were to hit that cow? I mean, it really, I agree. I think it was Mr. Spurdy that said, you know, some of this stuff is really childish. I just don't understand it. Now, the Christmas party last year for the township got moved to the Friday before the Country Christmas event, which eliminated us being able to come in and set up and do what we had to do because their party was on the day before. They did the same thing this year, so we weren't able to get into the building until Friday night to decorate and do what we had to do. That really is confusing. And then, of course, this year it fell that the pantry was on Monday. So Friday was the township party, Saturday was Country Christmas, Monday was the pantry. It's been a crazy day. It truly has. I want to say, Mark, where were you Saturday night? You should have been here. Joe, where was Joe Saturday night? No, nobody was here. Joe was here. Joe's the only one that was here. Jim wasn't here. Joe was here. Joe, by himself, he did everything for us. And I mean to tell you, he did everything. My husband came. Joe got the tables. He set everything up. He tore everything down, anything we needed. But the thing that really put me...
I'll speak on Mark's half. Mark had to go to the emergency room. He hurt his leg when he was home.
Where was his family? This is what I'm saying. Everybody is so tore apart. There's so much hate. The township doesn't come to the party. The Transparency Group doesn't feel welcome at the township, so they kind of stay back. So that's why we kind of had a low turnout. I think everybody just needs to kind of...
Everybody was welcome.
they're all welcome, but they just don't feel comfortable. I don't even feel comfortable.
us walk out there and talk, your eyes go in the back of your head.
Billy, no.
Don't say no, wait, I'm truly defending Joe here because he's the only one that I see any support whatsoever from. He really is there for me. He truly is. And I know he doesn't know a lot that goes on in this township because I do ask him questions. Well, I don't know. And that's where you do need to find out a little bit more about what's going on. And it should be an open door policy that when something's going on, they should automatically tell you. You shouldn't have to ask those things. You are a supervisor. So you're not being treated fairly either. I just think that there's just so much tension anymore, and it's really tearing this township apart. It's a wonderful place to live.
And I love working here.
And you know what?
I've tried my best.
He has done such a phenomenal job, and
I have tried my best for
he
you
cut the
residents.
roads. His roads are cut so far back that you can see the deer. It's truly
Well,
amazing the
it's
difference.
not all that. I mean, I try doing everything I possibly know how to do and do it the best of my knowledge.
And everything I've seen, you've done a great job. You really have. And I really think that
And everybody works here. Everybody that's on a payroll here that works every day works.
Where were they Saturday? Where was Jim?
Well-
Now, I want to tell you one other thing, because I want this on the record. Every year we have a face painter, we have a photographer, and we have a DJ. And that's where the budget, money comes out of that budget to pay those people. Every year this happens. Every year Courtney goes and says, I need checks for these 3 people. Again this year, Friday night, no checks at all. Saturday morning, Julie had to come in Saturday morning because she didn't come to work on Friday. She came in Saturday morning and she had to write the checks. Joe went in, he signed the check, Julie signed the check, and then we waited. We waited all through the Christmas party. We waited. There's not a second signer on the check. Joe had to go track down Jim to get those checks signed. Those checks should have been made out way in advance. And I don't understand. Why am I coming here in the evenings? Because I try not to interrupt business. I try not to come here during the day. Why is Julie here all the time at night? On a Friday night, on a Saturday night, on a Sunday morning, on a Thursday night. She's here all the time. Are we paying her overtime to be here in the evening? I don't understand that.
Mark handles the time cards on that.
What are you doing, Julie, here at night?
If she came at night, or if she was here at night, she came in late that day.
Every day that I've seen her here at night? I mean, she was here Thursday night. We were, came in and to do some things before the country Christmas. She was here Thursday night. I mean, she's been here quite a few evenings that I've come here. So,
She was working on some stuff for Mr. Liker also.
and she can't get that done during the day? I don't understand why we're so busy here. I don't see how that we're so busy. But anyhow, I can't take this hate anymore. I can't take it. Please accept my resignation from the rec board. I'm done. I will continue with the pantry, but I'm done with the rec board. Thank you.
I hate to see you leave.
And Jenna would be so disappointed.
Why she left?
Amen.
I hate to see you leave.
We all
Okay.
need to just get along.
Okay, adjourn the meeting at 7:09. Thank you for everybody's coming. Do you have something?
Yeah, just for 1 second.
Okay.
I just want to let everybody know, and let people don't know, I belong to Valley and Volunteer Fire Department. And don't forget, next Wednesday, fire truck, we come around with Santa Claus. We go from Hill Road all the way back to Ginger Hill.
Okay.
So if you have the kids out or your grandkids out, don't forget we pass out treats for everybody. We have Santa Claus on all the trucks we send out.
What time will you be starting? You think?
Out here, we leave the station probably around 5:30, somewhere around there.
And we do have people that call and complain, well, you didn't pass my house. We went back to the state, redress and come back out for these people.
Okay.
But I just want to let everybody know, that we do it, no, donation, we don't, whatever you do. But I just want to let everybody know, don't forget that we will be coming around next Wednesday. We're back at Creek Monday.
Where do you go? Where do you go?
We go from, like I say, down there right past the horse emporium. We start there, and then we go all the way out to Seal Road. Down each road, and down the driveways and stuff, and,
Been doing it for many years.
yes, but I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Joe.
No.
I just want people to know, because last year, a lot of people forget that we're coming.
Yeah.
And we go slow, we have the sirens on, and people look out the window, oh my God, somebody's house burning. But
Yeah.
on a Wednesday night, 9 times, God bless us, that Wednesday night, we don't have nothing. But we
Do you
do
still
have
get
a lot-
big apples or oranges when I was a kid?
Yeah. We have 4 trucks that go out.
Okay.
Over in our area, over in Carroll Township, but we do specifically come out here. Jack Miller used to do it, and now I kind of lead the one out this way, so I appreciate it if you tell everybody about it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. Okay. During the meeting at 7:09, I need a motion. I'll second it. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, Mark.